In the world of MMA, there's always something new going on. Whether it's a fight that everyone's talking about or a controversy that has the sport in a frenzy, there's always something to keep you entertained. From Mark Madsen's promise to KO Pimblett to the death of beloved jiu-jitsu star, we've got it all. Stick around for we'll be discussing all the latest news from the world of fighting. Kicking us off, Mark Madsen says the hype is real for Paddy Pimblett, but confident he would KO him. Mark Madsen, an unbeaten UFC lightweight, has changed his mind about what he said about Paddy Pimblett after seeing the Baddy finish Jordan Leavitt with a rear naked choke on Saturday at UFC London. Madsen, who is 12-0 in MMA and 4-0 in the UFC, didn't think much of Pimblett's wrestling at first and picked Leavitt to beat him by submission at UFC Fight Night 208 to stop the hype train. But Madsen says he was impressed with how Pimblett, 21-3 MMA and 3-0 UFC, handled himself on the ground, and that the hype is real for the man who many have compared to Conor McGregor. Even so, the Olympian still thinks he's a bad matchup for Pimblett, telling Vegas Insider there's a good chance he would knock Paddy out. He looked good on Saturday, and I mean, walking into an arena with all that support and still being able to perform was impressive. Madsen, who won a silver medal at the Olympics, said of Pimblett, he looked great and did a pretty good job. That said, I think I can beat Paddy the Baddy any day of the week. I'll wrestle and grab him better than he can, and the way he's holding his head up gives me a good chance of knocking him out too. He also said the hype is real. He proved to everyone on Saturday that he can fight well. I like Paddy the Baddy, but at the same time, I think I can beat him every day of the week. That said, Paddy is now 3-0 in the UFC, and I'm 4-0. So I think it would be great to see Paddy the Baddy go up against a real Olympian. Let's find out what he has. Madsen's last fight was at UFC 273, where he won a unanimous decision over Vince Pichel. All but one of the Dane's UFC fights were won by decision. Pimblett, on the other hand, has won every fight in the UFC by knockout and has only had to go to a decision 4 times in his MMA career as a whole. Next, jiu-jitsu star Leandro Lo shot to death after nightclub altercation in Brazil. Legendary Brazilian jiu-jitsu world champion Leandro Lo was killed in his home country of Brazil early on Sunday, August 7th. This was a very sad day for the martial arts world. Brazilian news outlet G1 says that a man Lo got into an argument with at a nightclub in Sao Paulo shot him in the head. Henrique Otavio Oliveira Veloso, a military police officer, was named as the shooter, but he has not been found yet. Ivan Sequeira Jr., Lo's lawyer, told G1 that Otavio has been taunting Leandro before things got worse, but the fighter immobilized Veloso to stop things from getting worse. Unfortunately, as soon as Lo let him go, Henrique pulled out his gun and shot at Leandro. Jr. says that once Leandro was on the ground from the gunshot, Veloso kicked him twice before running away. According to the police report, one of Leandro's friends told how the terrible thing happened. He walked up to our table and took a bottle from it. Leandro pinned him down just to make him calm down. Veloso then moved 4 or 5 steps and fired. Lo was taken to the hospital while she was still alive, but Jr. said that she was declared brain dead soon after she got there. Leandro was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion 8 times, with his most recent win coming this year. He had a long and successful career in the sport. Overall, Lo won titles at some of the biggest competitions in the world, like the World Cup, the Pan American Games, and the Brazilian National Jiu-Jitsu Championship. This made him one of the most successful athletes in the history of the sport. Leandro Lo was only 33 at the time. Moving on, UFC legend Tito Ortiz interested in boxing match with Jake Paul. Even though he considers himself an amateur boxer, UFC Hall of Famer Tito Ortiz wants to fight Jake Paul in a boxing match. Ortiz made his professional boxing debut against UFC legend Anderson Silva on the undercard of Triller Holyfield vs. Belfort on September 11, 2021. In the first round, he was knocked out. Even though his first boxing match didn't go as planned, Ortiz wants to fight again and would be happy to do so against Paul, who has knockout wins over former MMA champions Ben Askren, ONE and Bellator, and Tyrone Woodley, UFC. When podcaster Chris Van Vliet asked Ortiz if he would like to fight Paul, Ortiz said, "I would love to. HT MMA News. That would be great. That would be enjoyable. Once again, my record is 0-1 and his is 5-0. I still feel like an amateur in boxing. Even though I do a lot of mixed martial arts, I still feel like a beginner, but I'm very competitive. I'm always trying to win." Paul, who is 25 years years old, is looking for his next opponent because his fight with Hasim Rahman Jr. on August 6th was called off at the last minute because of weight problems. He is 5-0 in boxing with wins over YouTuber Anderson Gibb, former NBA player Nate Robinson, and fighters Askren and Woodley, who were both mentioned above. In other related news, Charles Oliveira sends warning to Islam Makhachev, and his arrogant team manager responds. Before their highly anticipated lightweight title fight at UFC 280, Charles Oliveira sent Islam Makhachev a strong warning. Oliveira thinks Makhachev and his team are ignoring him, and he says Makhachev's arrogance will get him in trouble on October 22nd. During a recent interview with MMA Hoja, the Brazilian criticized Makhachev and his manager, Ali Abdelaziz. "I have something important to tell you." Oliveira recently told MMA Hoja, "There's something I want to tell you. They're being proud, and that's what will kill him. Their manager and former fighters are full of pride, and that will kill them. No one will ever hurt me as hard as life has. I'm a guy who got away from a terrible situation. Rheumatism in my bones, which my doctor told me I would never have to deal with again. I'm going to fight you at your house, my friend. As a UFC lightweight champion, I want to make history and keep my name alive. You say a lot of nonsense, like I've always looked up to you all, but you should listen so you don't have to cry about it later. I have nothing else to say." Abdelaziz, who works at Dominance MMA and manages Makhachev and several other well-known fighters, replied on Twitter. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt said that neither he nor Makhachev dislike Oliveira and that they are looking forward to a great fight in Abu Dhabi. Oliveira has won his last 11 fights in a row. His wins over Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje were especially impressive. He has the most submissions, 16, and finishes, 19, in the UFC, and many people think he is the best lightweight fighter in the promotion, if not the best. Makhachev has won his last 10 fights in a row, but he hasn't faced as good of opponents as Oliveira has. The Dagestani trains with Khabib Nurmagomedov, the UFC lightweight GOAT, and is one of the best Sambo fighters in the sport. At UFC Fight Night 202, he knocked out Bobby Green in the first round with a TKO. Oliveira vs. Makhachev, which is part of the UFC 280, is set to happen on October 22nd at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Finally, Jake Paul to pay undercard fighters 50% of their fight purse after canceled boxing event. YouTuber Jake Paul is backing up what he says with his money. Hasim Rahman Jr. is the son of former heavyweight boxing champ Hasim Rahman. The 25-year-old was supposed to fight Hasim Rahman Jr. on August 6th, but the fight and the whole event were canceled because his opponent was too heavy. Paul has said that he will pay 50% of the undercard fighters' fight purses for the August 6th PPV that was canceled. On the undercard, there were going to be 12 fights, but Amanda Serrano, Ashton Silva, and Brandon Lee were not among them. Their fights are in the process of being moved to a new date. Paul wrote on behalf of his company, Most Valuable Promotions, "These undercard fighters stuck to the terms of their contracts, and Jake and MVP are very upset that the event cancellation hurt them. Amanda Serrano, Ashton Silva, and Brandon Lee are trying to set new dates for their fights with their opponents. All of the other fighters in the event's undercard will get 50% of their contracted purse directly from Jake Paul. They do not have any contractual obligations to the promotion." Paul is 5-0 in boxing, beating Anderson Gibb, Nate Robinson, Ben Askren, and Tyrone Woodley twice. It was supposed to be his first fight against a professional boxer, but the fight with Rahman Jr., 12-1, was called off. It's still not clear if the fight will be rescheduled or if Paul has someone else in mind to fight next. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Make sure to like and follow for more great MMA news. Till next time, cheers.